Scooch just. Yeah, you were sliding that one.
Oh yeah, it was like.
Yeah.
Just keep that. Is great. I really enjoy it. So trying to hit Ellen Dilly on, and all this look.
Where's Paul going? Ready?
Yeah. Make that part of the video.
Hi everybody!
Hello.
Welcome to Josiah's Right. So I am back with Paul and we have Penny with us because we are going to talk about M.U.S.C.L.E. This is not a muscle toy. This is a Toxic Avenger, which is a line that we can talk about potentially. Anyway, this is a Toxic Avenger toy that Penny is going to hold, but we're going to talk about M.U.S.C.L.E. So first up, we're going to talk about a little bit about the history of M.U.S.C.L.E.
In the 1980s, wrestling, along with transforming robot cars, was a big deal. And, at least in my world, little else was that popular. Cashing in on that craze, Mattel brought us He-Man. I mean M.U.S.C.L.E. Like those transforming VW bugs, the origins of these half-naked little, sometimes mohawked men goes farther back in time. To the country of Japan. No, not that far back in time. Ah, that's better, and yet somehow much, much worse. What Americans know as M.U.S.C.L.E. was originally a manga titled Kinnikuman, created by Yoshinori Nakai and Takashi Shimida, who worked together as Yadatamago, all of which I'm sure I pronounced incorrectly, as I had to repeat it several times to do this voiceover. Overlapping with its dumbed-down American cousin, it also ran for a whopping 137 episodes as a cartoon by Toei Animation from 1983 to 1986. It was designed as a parody of Ultraman and similar characters. The plot was wonderfully Japanese and basically involved intergalactic wrestling for the throne. It was also probably too violent for American kids at the time. But not for me. I totally could have handled it. The characters' personalities were largely defined by their designs, and their designs were often awesomely absurd. For example, the main character, Kinnikuman, was Muscle Man because he looked like a muscle man. While the toys were produced by Mattel in the United States, they were originally produced by Bandai. So we should quickly talk about Keshi. Keshi is derived from Keshigomu, which actually means eraser. Keshi is simply small rubber collectibles. They're small toys that are infectiously collectible. Returning from Japan to the United States, 3-year-old me was likely at high risk of choking on a tiny piece of pink plastic when M.U.S.C.L.E. invaded in 1985. M.U.S.C.L.E. stood for millions of unusual small creatures lurking everywhere, proving some acronyms are totally silly and completely unnecessary. While not millions, at least dozens of them could be found throughout my parents' house. Officially, there were 236 figures released in the US. While distributed via vending machines in Japan, US figures came in 28 packs of 4 carded figures, and garbage cans of 10, with the latter 2 being randomly packaged, resulting in a wonderfully terrible trading card-like possibility of duplicates, also resulting in often intense trade negotiations. The American plot was much less Game of Thrones, and much more mid-80s WWF, as Muscle Man and the Thugbusters battled Terrible and his Cosmic Crunchers, and that was it. Which again, for me, was plenty. To be honest, without a cartoon, I wasn't even aware of any story until today. Well, about a week ago. For the figures, there was also a belt figure case, a Rock'em Sock'em Robots-esque ring, it was glorious, an interesting looking board game that I think was some kind of dance competition, a horrible NES game, and a magnificent, totally epic checklist poster. Well, the initial figures were flesh tone. Okay, yeah, I'll admit it. They were pink. Later figures were a rainbow of colors, which I didn't care for, as I feel the detail of the figures shine more in that flesh tone. Yeah, it's still pink. Similar to other toys thus far covered in this series, the value was apparent to kids and parents alike. You get a lot for a relatively small amount of cash. In the United States, the most minimum purchase got you 4 action figures. That's pretty good for play value. Buy a couple of them, and you have an awesome good time. While Playthings magazine listed it among the 10 best-selling toy lines of 1986, its championship reign proved short-lived. The line was killed, bodies land by Mattel. Being unlicensed from Bandai, the profits weren't as big as other Mattel properties, such as He-Man or Barbie. In Japan, you can still get them from vending machines. Most of what you see here are modern figures purchased by Paul last year. And you can still read the comics. In fact, in Japan, there's a much more detailed and in-depth history than I'm even touching on here, some of which did make it to the United States. So you should really look into it, including some really, really cool action figures. In the US, they haven't really been seen in their original form since the 1980s. Although in 2015, Super 7 began releasing Masters of the Universe muscle figures, a fitting crossover for any 80s kid. Since then, Super 7 has expanded to still cool, but slightly less logical connections such as Alien and Iron Maiden. Hopefully, in the near future, we see some legit, more authentic muscle figures. In the meantime, if you're in Japan, hit up a vending machine for me.
So first up, we're going to just show you some of the modern Super 7 muscle. So what we have here is And this is kind of going to lead into why we think it needs to be brought back properly. So here we have just some He-Man. I'll hand some of these to Paul. We got here's the one with Skeletor and Beastman. So these are from the original first line. So you can see here, and I'll cut to maybe some better shots of these. But this is the first line of He-Man, which there are a total of I think 12 figures. Basically, that's kind of how they do these lines. There's 12 figures. I'll hand you another one.
Sure.
Here, I'll hand you these ones too.
Okay.
So Paul's gonna hold those since I have got Penny.
Yeah.
But basically what you can see here is those are the first 12, the first wave. I don't actually have beyond that, and Penny actually just grabbed here an example of some more. So you have the alien muscle. So that's what you have here. So alien muscle, right, Penny? So these guys are a little bit later, but each one is in a series set of 12. And again, I will cut to proper pictures of all of these different lines. So basically though, those are what you have today. So they've done Mega Man, they've done Robotech now, they've done Alien, which we've seen. They've done, obviously it started, their reboot started with Masters of the Universe.
There's a brand called The Worst, I guess. That
The Worst, which is their brand. I have some of the Worst stuff that, it's their own original sort of line of toys that is if like, sort of a retro line of original characters and things. So they have those as muscle.
Yeah.
And the ones I really want are Mega Man. That I don't have.
That's a great.
Because you can see here, I'm a big Mega Man fan, and so I have my Kid Robot. So then those ones are pretty cool.
They did The Simpsons.
Oh my God!
Simpsons.
They're out of frame, but if you've ever watched my videos, there's a lot of Simpsons Kid Robot behind me, and there's so many potential for characters there. So and those I'm sure would sell well because it's The Simpsons, right?
Yeah.
So that is what they're doing right now. So let's talk about what we had when we were kids. So what did you have?
So I had the original muscle figures.
Exactly, and that's what I'm going to talk about.
Little pink figures that are in the same style as that. And the funny thing is like they had a guy, I think his name was Kinnikuman.
And he had like the mohawk guy.
Yeah, he had a mohawk, but it was like.
And he had like this rubber round mouth lips.
But it looked exactly like that. Like he was on the ring and he's like jumping.
Yeah,
in there.
the box art is like it's
very
pretty
similar.
much similar to it. Like even the way here you have like the alien is doing the same kind of jump, and the muscle word is the same. That one is the M.U.S.C.L.E, the Masters of the Universe muscle kind of line. So it's got a little bit of a different flavor to it.
Oh yeah, and they were so great for kids because you could get a whole trash can full of like 12 of them.
Yeah.
And then play with them, and like they were so cheap, and like you leave them somewhere.
Well, and here's I think the thing is why I have none of mine, sadly. Do you have any of yours still?
I have like 2.
See, but the point being is they just didn't last because they were rubbery, so they were kind of cheapy, but not cheap. Like it was like a hard rubber, so they were solidly built, and they were good for play value, but they were easy to lose.
In Japan, it was called Kinnikuman. And
Yeah.
they had like it was like a weird thing where like there's an alien planet and they're like wrestling on that alien planet, and then like this convoluted backstory. But when they brought it here, it was just
there was like
figures.
no story. It
and
was
no
just
story.
figures, but they were awesome and they sold. And I think there's always appeal to kids. Like even Penny, like we collect for her like her kid robots and stuff. You want to share with Paul?
Oh, thank you.
We have for her those kind of things, and she's a little bit small, but she already likes small things that are like penny-sized things. So she likes stuff that is, I'll give her. This is actually an example. This is one of her toys. This is a kid robot for Penny, but she likes stuff that is little and penny-sized. And as a kid, that's part of the appeal. Like I remember other figures. There was like similar things that were a little bit bigger. There was like rubbery ninjas and wrestlers that were like probably closer to the kid robot scale.
Yeah.
Those were all painted, and they were like come in 4-packs and things. And part of it is as a kid, you buy a toy pack, like when you bought that Garbage Pail, or if you bought like even like the 3-pack here, it's more value, like from the kid mind. Like I could buy one G.I. Joe, and even though these figures are smaller, I'm getting 3
figures, and they all have different characters and different distinct personalities. And like I remember specifically, like I would, whenever I'd get them, I'd stuff as many of those muscle men in my pockets. Like right before my parents would take me to church, and like I wouldn't pay attention to anything that was going on in church.
Yeah.
I'd hide underneath one of the pews or whatever and play with my muscle. And then my parents would like grab me like, hey, stop making a commotion, or something. But I just remember those like great memories of stuffing my pockets with all these muscle figures, as many as I could.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, today I got 24 in there. And I was like really excited.
Yeah. No, exactly. But then, as we said, that's why you lose
I
them.
think I actually buried some of my muscle figures in my backyard.
But muscle figures, that was what would happen to them. They would just get lost, get left at a friend's house, lost at grandma's house, left in the car, and vacuumed up. Because that's the downside of the small things. So
and there was
all of those kind of things would happen.
How many? There was like 700 different ones or something like that, or like.
I don't know, but there was a lot. So I'm sure in the history we talked about that though.
Yeah. The ones I only have 2 left. The one I have is like this snake man, and there's like a snake wrapped around his chest, and then his head is like a snake head. And then there's another one where it's like a robot, where he has like some kind of battering ram for his hand. But yeah, I don't even know what their names are or whatever.
Exactly.
But I have them on my desk, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool that they survived.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It was challenging to sort of keep them, and it's not selling them. And I think that they're probably, modern ones or the retro ones. The old ones are a little bit on the expensive side online because they're rare because so many of them are just lost.
Yeah.
And if you find them, they're not. If you find a set, that's a rare thing too. Like there's so many lost, and Penny is really enjoying Homer's bald head here.
I'm just remembering. I remember, I think it was like the mid '90s. They did a revival of it was like Ultimate Muscle.
I didn't know that.
And then they had like a cartoon with like the new generation of those characters, like the Kid of Command guy that was like on here, like he had a son or whatever. Like all the characters had like their sons like fighting each other in the wrestling ring. And it was kind of like an anime show. I remember it was like late 90s or something like that, where it's called Ultimate Muscle. I actually have a GameCube game that where you can play these characters, and it's a 4-player game.
Oh, wow.
And I totally just forgot about that and made the connection now. Yeah, those
were the kind of things, because it was basically wrestling figures. That's the kind of thing. They were wrestlers, which is why he's jumping at you, and that's like kind of the key. And I think it worked because in the 80s in particular, wrestling was. She's grabbing my pens. In the 80s, wrestling was really big for kids. Like it was, I don't know what wrestling is now, but wrestling was a kids brand, and then in the 90s became a very more grown-up thing. But like Hulk Hogan, he had a cartoon. Those were like kids. Those were for kids. They were like superheroes, quote, if you will. And that's what, you're pointing with the pen. So that is what they were. So like they there was a lot more of untapped potential in the 80s for like stories and things like that came from them that was never here in the United States. They were obviously in Japan, but they never kind of went there here in the States. So the question is what do we want to see in the reboot?
I mean, basically you just release just a whole bunch of those little figures.
That's where it would start from, like that. Those original figures. You could even like sort of do it like you could finally add the color potentially. You could potentially do like different lines where you have black and white. You could have a line where, to take the paper away from Penny, you could have a line where you have black and white. You could have a line in color. You could do it different ways. Maybe like it's like a limited edition of the black and white or something. Not black and white. I keep saying just pink. I'm saying black and white, but just the pink. You could just do like there's variations what you could do with the toys themselves.
And the funny thing is, like Super 7 has a license.
Exactly. So I wonder if there's some limit to what limit to the license though. Maybe they can't because those are. I'm sure that those likenesses are owned by a Japanese company. Maybe the M.U.S.C.L.E brand is so. Perhaps they own the M.U.S.C.L.E brand as Penny is dropping these. M.U.S.C.L.E figures.
They
don't have a license for the likenesses to those. I'm sure it's more complicated. It's not worth picking up. I'm sure it's more complicated to, work your way to get the rights to the Japanese ones, and who knows what the issue could be there. She's trying to show you guys the M.U.S.C.L.E figures. It's an alien one, but I'm sure that that's a potential issue with that. However. The legal wranglings aside, I think, again, then there's potential for video game stories, because, again, it's wrestling themed. So I didn't know there was a GameCube game. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't actually.
I
own the
still
game
have it.
computer, but
I'll bring
there
it
you go.
one day. We'll play it.
Yeah, we'll do a video where we play muscle wrestling for you
Yeah,
guys. So
muscle.
yeah, so you have something to look forward
I
to.
remember the title screen was like Ultimate Muscle Legends versus New Generation.
See, I had no idea.
Yeah,
So they already kind of tried
I
this.
used to play it in college all the time, and it was cool. And it was like, oh, I'm glad they brought this thing
Yeah,
back.
so clearly they
and
tried
then it went
it.
away again, and
Yeah.
it was sad. But yeah, I wish they brought it back. You know, it's just one of the things from my childhood that like really loved. Has so much potential there for, you know, maybe you can have a whole mythology around these characters.
No, exactly.
or,
I think
like,
that's one of the things, you know, it's kind of, there's untapped
I'm like-
story potential, especially on the United States version.
And it kind of seems like wrestling is kind of becoming more mainstream nowadays. Like there's a lot of people that really are into.
Yeah, exactly. So,
know,
yeah, I think
Undertaker
there,
or
and I think that muscle could sort of. I think what wrestling trying to be now. I just recently watched WrestleMania. I've been very out of touch with wrestling. I like sort of it as a retro thing, but I don't currently watch it. But there's great potential for it to. I think what they try is it is all things to all people. So they want wrestling to be like something that everyone likes, that everyone can watch, from Penny to me and Paul.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what they want. But I think that that's what they're trying to do with wrestling, and I think Muscle could fit in that world because it would appeal to us, and it could potentially appeal to the Pennies of the world because it's these cute little figurines, and you could have potentially adorable little Vampirina style cartoons. We were just watching Vampirina with Penny, so we
In
were
fact,
asking,
it's like in
how is she out
Play-Doh.
during the day?
There's like a whole bunch of like wrestling action figures. Like there's a whole
Yeah,
aisle
exactly.
for that.
So like why not have another one? So, any other thoughts?
Yeah. Really, I mean, you know, just bring it back, please.
Yeah, so bring it back.
Like,
So as Penny is getting more and more restless, is that what she wanted? She wanted that action figure. We're sitting down there like, that was the first one she had and then she dropped it. So that is all we're going to talk about for Muscle. So be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you think of Muscle. Be sure to comment. Penny, can you say bye to everybody? Say bye. Can you blow a kiss? Blow a kiss. That's her. She does it kind of backwards. So we're going to say bye. Thank you guys for watching and bring back Muscle.
Yeah.
The old school Muscle. But thank you for this. We do appreciate this.
Yes.
So,
Thank
like,
you,
this
super
is not
excited.
licking. This is not licking a gift horse in the mouth. Don't lick a gift horse in the mouth. You will regret it.
Whoa, that's
Bye, everybody.
words to live by.